So in this episode, I sit down with Paul Faulder. He talks about the ups and downs of his journey dealing with chronic back issues and back pain, and he talks about how training has helped him get his life back. Paul, thanks very much for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome. Great to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And this one actually relates a little bit to me because so I've got ankylosing spondylitis, which is a condition in the spine. It's like an extension of the psoriatic arthritis that I've got. Yeah. So mine comes and goes. It's very much like inflammation based, but when it's bad, it's bad. So I know you, obviously, your background and story is all around chronic back issues and back pain, which has been like quite consistent throughout since you were 17. So I can only imagine, obviously mine comes and goes over the space of like a few days, a few weeks, but you've obviously had that, for a long time. So this one kind of relates for me as well. So just kind of going back, so you was roughly 17, I think, when you first got it. Can you talk about
17, that? Yeah. So we're talking, so I'm 49 now, so 32 years, is that right? Is that a good mental arithmetic?
I'm going to say, yeah. Let's just say,
it's been a long day having already. Background story, so I was very active as a sort of younger teenager. I played tennis all summer, lived around the corner from a great tennis club, so I just used to walk down there, 6 weeks holiday.
Yeah.
As soon as the sun came up, left as soon as the sun went down. Cycling, everything. And this one occasion, so my sister, a couple of years older than me, she'd gone to Liverpool Uni, and me and a mate of mine decided we'd go over there, go on a night out, and stay over at her flat. Slept on a concrete floor, probably in the wrong shape. There was no support whatsoever. Too many beers.
Yeah.
Get up the next day, literally walking into town, and I just sort of braced.
Okay.
And everyone went, what's the matter? So I got shooting pain right on my back. And it was kind of like a real moment, like, I've just been walking, I've done nothing.
Yeah.
And it just happened. Now, I don't know whether it was related to the sleep or whatever, but I'd never had it before.
Yeah.
But it was one of those pains that really made me kind of stop and think, what has happened here?
Yeah.
So it kind of eased off, and I went to see the doctor, and I said, because it was kind of still there, it had not rectified itself. And he just prescribed naproxen, which is an NSAID, I think.
Yeah.
And basically said, just rest. And I was well into my training by then anyway.
Okay.
I've been lifting weights since I was about 14. Okay. Because I was a very skinny kid. I used to get bullied for it. So
right, okay. Yeah.
Let's build some muscle. And they basically said, stop training. Take the pills, stop training.
Right.
So I did. So that's all. There was no physio. There was no go and see a physio. There was no go and see anything else. Just take pills. So I'm like, right, okay, you're the doctor.
Yeah.
I'll follow your advice. And then I started getting these episodes where I'd be doing something that was just, most people think you'd pull your back if you were lifting something heavy in the wrong way, and of course you can do that. Mine was cleaning my teeth or picking up a carrier bag that was empty, something completely like, random, innocent, innocuous, whatever. And it would just lock up. But it would lock up for days. And I remember being about 21, and I was seeing this girl at the time, and it was way outside my GP's sort of home visit zone. Yeah. So it went, and I was in agony. And I went into bed for 3 days, and I was literally, I couldn't move. And I was using an empty bottle of Diet Coke to go to the toilet. Yeah. And it didn't look like Diet Coke, it was more like Iron Brew, you know what I mean? And I remember someone had told me once that a muscle relaxant, really good muscle relaxant, is alcohol. So So we had a bottle of whiskey in one hand, and a bottle of Iron Brew in the other. Yeah. And it was that was 3 days, and I was on the phone to him, and he said, I can't come out to you, you're too far away. Yeah. You're just going to have to ride it out. Yeah. But I couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
to go to the toilet. So hence the bottle and the whiskey. So I'd in the blink of an eye, I'd gone full on tramp.
Yeah.
I was lying down,
Yeah.
pissing in a bottle, and drinking whiskey. It was great. Eventually, it released up, and I was back on my feet. But it kept happening.
Okay.
And I put up with it for years. And then someone said, even girlfriend's brother at the time, actually, he said, there's a chiropractor in Wilmslow, go and see him. Uh-huh. And I said, right, okay. So I went to see him, and it was like, right, I know what it is. And in those days, they gave you an x-ray. They don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
He said, right, I can see that you've got some sort of degradation, if you like, in your lower discs. He said, but it's fine, don't worry about it, it's fine. So he did some manipulation. I walked out there like he was some kind of god. Because he'd literally just relieved the pain straight away.
Yeah.
And I said, what's the kind of long-term outlook on this? And he said, well, what will happen is the older you get, the more wear and tear you'll get in the other discs. I'm thinking, right, well, okay, that doesn't sound good. And he said, no, it is good because it will even out the pressure.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. That didn't happen.
No.
Apart from the fact that I did get wear and tear throughout the years.
Yeah.
As proven by an MRI scan.
Yeah.
But the problem just got worse and worse.
Okay.
So
what he was saying was in terms of like it potentially evening out and getting better, that wasn't the case.
it wasn't the case. I mean, I call up, if I have an episode these days, I'll call up and say, hi, it's Paul. I've been coming here for 25 years. I always say that so I get an appointment the same day.
Throw that one in.
Just chat them up a little bit. And yeah, I saw him, I see him periodically if it flares up. And then it's when it got to COVID. Yeah. That's when it really, really kicked off. And I had a really bad episode about that.
Well, that was my next thing, really. It was, I mean, obviously you've already said, lying in bed, going to the toilet in a bottle and drinking whiskey sounds pretty bad. But what is like the worst moments, and does that naturally go into what happened to you in COVID and stuff? What's the worst it's been?
The worst it's been, other than the whiskey incident.
Other than that, yeah.
So COVID, I mean, everyone's behaviour kind of changed, didn't it?
Yeah.
So I did do the activity stuff. I went out on my bike. It was like being 16 again. There was no cars on the road. It was like, this is heaven.
Yeah.
That was the first lockdown. Every other lockdown annoyed everybody. But I got into because you couldn't go into the shops as easily, you had to queue up, didn't you? Yeah. So I just got in this habit of ordering takeaways every night.
Okay.
And drinking wine.
Yeah.
And I was putting weight on. Yeah. And I could feel it. And the episodes were getting more and more frequent. And I remember my dad had this one bad episode, and I was doing the garden at the time, and I said to my dad, I can't help you. Can you help me? Now my dad's 80, right? Yeah. He's a machine. He's like my biggest hero, biggest inspiration. And I felt awful because I was lying on this sofa watching him dig trees all day long and plant them. Yeah. And I thought, this is embarrassing, this is really bad. Anyway, I got over that episode. And then the pivotal moment for me, because I'd kind of coped from being 16, it was like, okay, if I get an episode, I'll take some pills, and I've been on every painkiller you can think of, right? We can go into that as much detail as you want, but that's not the answer. This particular episode, so normally I'd see a chiropractor who flared up, and then he'd go, fine, go back to the gym. Thought I knew how to lift weights because I'd been doing it since I was 14. Yeah. Did something stupid. Yeah. Most stupid thing I ever did. I had two 32k dumbbells in my hand. Yeah. In the middle of summer. Yeah. Windows open in the gym. Yeah. Wasps flies round. Yeah. I decided to kick it whilst holding two dumbbells. That clearly knocked me off balance. Yeah. That knocked me out for 2 weeks. So I was in this vicious cycle of getting over something, injuring myself, getting over it. And it was like, I wasn't getting anywhere.
Was that still the phase as well, sorry, that at that point, was it like big things that would trigger it, or
no, it was the little
that
things.
still the
It was
stage
cleaning
where
the
anything?
teeth.
Yeah,
It was the cleaning the teeth and kicking wasps.
yeah, that's what
You know what I mean? It's like any combination of that. So it's things that you just wouldn't think of. But the pivotal moment was, I've got a little French bulldog, and her early years were really bad, and she was really quite ill. And I used to take her upstairs to the bed, and she'd lie down next to me on the bed so I could keep an eye on her. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she was still asleep. I got up in the morning and I went in the shower, and I wasn't concentrating, and I just kind of lost my footing a little bit in the shower, and I got this shooting pain right on my back. I went, oh, it's happening again. Mm-hmm. Right, okay. So I managed to get out of the shower. It took me about 10 minutes to dry myself and put my clothes on, right? Because you couldn't bend down.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the next problem, and the next problem was I had to carry the French bulldog down the stairs, but my back was really, really sore. So that made it worse. Every step holding this dog made it worse and worse and worse. Right, chiropractor. I've been coming to you for 25 years. You know the story, right?
The cycle.
Said, right, come straight in. And a great guy that had seen Dr. Scott Middleton, Wilmslow Chiropractic, and he said, I remember it to this day. It was the very first time he had a student observing. He said, do you mind if she observes? I said, no, not at all. He said, right, get on the bed. He said, what have you done? I told him the story. So he got on the bed, he went, He said, well, I've seen you for a long time, Paul, but you've done something very different this time. I went, interesting. And he went, right. He said, I'm not going to overdo it with you. I'm just going to gently release something, and then I'm going to send you home. Mm-hmm. But you might be sore for a few days. I said, okay. When you say sore, what do you mean? And he went, well, people pass out with the sort of pain you're going to experience. Yeah. And I went, okay. So that I was worried about that night. Mm-hmm. Now, same routine, dog's not recovered. Mm-hmm. Take her upstairs. Remember, I'd done that in the morning, seen the chiropractor. Now we go for a night's sleep. Yeah. Pick up the dog next to me, get into bed, comfortable. Right. Middle of the night, that never happened ever. I woke up screaming. Right, screaming. Yeah. In absolute agony. Now, I wasn't living with my partner at the time, but I felt like if I moved 1 millimetre, I could do some damage, and I was catastrophizing. I was going to lose feeling in my legs. I couldn't move. I was scared to death. Thankfully, my phone was next to me. Got my phone, rang my partner. I said, I need your help now. I can't move. I can't get out of bed. And I think I was crying out of pain. Yeah. And turns out she didn't have a spare key. But it was the middle of the summer. So I'd left the bedroom window open. I said, you've got to come round. I can't ring. I need an ambulance. And of course, with COVID, the ambulances were prioritising other things. So I rung the ambulance. Oh, we'll come and see you in a couple of hours. No, I need it now. Well, we'll see what we can do. So we managed to get the ambulance. Said it's coming round. And I said to my partner, look, you've not got a key. You need to come round to the house. My neighbour's got a key. So she woke him up, got his key and some ladders, put the ladders up to the bedroom window, and my partner sent her daughter up the ladder through the window to let the ambulance people in, right? Obviously, Frenchie's going mad. What's going on here? Getting broken into, that kind of thing. 2 paramedics fly up the stairs, come to see me, said, right, we're going to do some tests on you, and then we're going to try and get you out of bed. But I could see you're a big lad. So the first paramedic, who also was a big lad, he said, right, hold on to my wrists and turn around. And bearing in mind, by this point, I hadn't moved a millimetre. I was staying exactly where I was. Tries to pull me out of bed, absolutely screaming. He then used the second paramedic to help him, absolutely screaming. I said, can't do this. Put me back into bed. So they said, right, we're going to down to the ambulance. We're going to get you on some gas and air. And what that'll do is it'll relax the muscles enough for us to get you moving. If it doesn't, then we're going to have to take you into hospital.
Okay.
So I said, right, well, let's have a crack at that then. So I was on the gas and air for 10 minutes, and I've never done before. Have you ever done that?
No.
It's a weird experience, right? But so I was like, kind of like, you know, having a floaty experience.
Yeah.
And he said, right, are you ready? I went, could be. They got me up, still screaming, but they got me up. And they said, now you're up, you need to walk around. So bear in mind, we're looking at about 3:30 in the morning now.
Yeah.
Managed to get downstairs, scared to death of sitting down, because sitting down aggravates it.
Yeah.
Okay. And he said, get straight onto the doctors, get some diazepam, get some naproxen, okay, and just get on it. And I remember I got the drugs, I got someone to go and get them for me because I couldn't get in the car. And slowly, over a course of a few days, it eased up. But I say a few days, actually. I think it was about 2 weeks.
Okay.
I think it was about 2 weeks, think about it. And then I felt 100%, I was great. Okay, let's go back to the gym, right? But avoiding wasps and all that sort of stuff.
Standard change.
Filthy teeth, no wasps, none of that. And I did it again, another 2 weeks.
It's just that cycle.
Yeah, I was just like, this is ridiculous, this.
Yeah.
I've seen chiropractors for 25 years. This has got to change. And that was the day that I started to make the change.
So the next point for you then, so obviously you've been through this time, so the next point for you is getting into your resistance training properly, understanding how to train properly.
Yeah.
And that's where I think now we kind of transition onto what's helped you with your back and what is helping you to this day.
Yeah, and I mean, before I kind of get into that, I went to the chiropractors that I'd seen for 25 years. I said, look, guys, you've been great, but I think we're beyond it now. And he said, go and see this surgeon, neurosurgeon. We've actually seen him. We've had epidural injections, which numbs the spine. Went to see him, and he said, okay, BMI, height, weight, all the rest of it. Had a MRI scan. He said, right, your L5S1 pretty much destroyed. Neural exit, where the nerve comes out, is diminished, which made sense because if I make that wrong move, it triggers it. Right? Because there's just no room for the vertebrae to move and not press the nerve. So that's what was happening. So I'd started to understand what was happening. So he said, I said, right, what are the options here? So I said, well, I can give you this epidural injection. Your condition is not something I can operate on, but I can give you this injection. He said, but in the politest possible way, Paul, you're too fat. And that was COVID because it was So I had this big belly on me. He said, I need you to lose weight. I need you to lose 10 kilos. And he said, because you've got this belly stuck out here, your lower back is holding that up. So go and train. No running, right? It's all about nutrition. Don't want anything that's pounding on your spine. But you need to change your diet and you need to lose weight. And I'd had all these Instagram adverts, and I'd been looking at them for a year. It's all this, fat person, six pack, fat person, six pack. Great stuff. Didn't know the story behind any of them. But all I was seeing was this. And this was just after my birthday. So we're talking like towards late November. I said, right, I've made a decision. I said, first of all, neurosurgeon, what's it going to cost me to have this injection? He said about 3.5K. Right. I just couldn't use medical insurance because pre-existing condition. So I thought, right, I'm going to go, because if they can do that to all these people from that to that, I'm going to go and see them. So I walked into, I was dead embarrassed, like just big belly, fat face, all the rest of it, and walked in and saw Dan McKenzie. and sat down with Dan. I said, do you fancy a challenge? He went, yeah. I said, right, this is the backstory. I've seen this neurosurgeon. He told me I'm too fat. I'm sat here, what can you do for me? So he said, well, what have you got to lose? I said, 10K. He said, right, we'll double that. I said, right, brilliant. So 1st of January then? He went, no. We start now.
Yeah.
I said, what do you mean we start now? We've got Christmas.
Yeah.
He said, start now and you'll lose a stone and a half before Christmas. I said, all right, let's crack on then.
Mm-hmm.
So I signed up
mm-hmm.
and then turned up. First trainer, Sally,
mm-hmm.
sat me down, said, right, what are your objectives? Told her the objectives. She said, right, this is how it's going to work. We're going to do 3 times a week, resistance training.
Yeah.
I know you've got an injury.
Yeah.
I know you've got to be very careful.
Yeah.
I'm going to sort your calories out. I'm going to sort your macros out. I'm going to put you on a training program. And let's see how we go.
Yeah.
I said, right, I'm up for it. Because I'd had that life-changing moment that it was like, this has got to come to an end.
The time.
This has got to come to an end. I've got a professional person in the neurosurgeon saying, I'm not even going to touch you until you lose weight.
Yeah.
So I went, right, well, it's an easy decision for me because I'd rather have a new body than keep coming to you and spending 3.5K.
Yeah, that's a new cycle to be in then, wasn't it, with him, really?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, this is the moment. And I had been fit.
Mm-hmm.
I had lifted the weights. But now it was about doing it properly.
Yeah, exactly. And you've carried that. So you've carried that on in terms of like what you do day to day now as well. So
Absolutely.
Everything you've learned in terms of with you and how to train, that's now part of your life. And what does your day look like now in terms of training? And what advice can you give other people now? If there was a couple of top tips that you give people that are suffering from what you have been suffering, what would you say?
So my day-to-day training now. So first thing, I cannot go back to 2 things. One is looking like I did, because we're all self-conscious about how we look, aren't we?
Yeah.
So I don't want someone. When I lost weight, someone went, "Wow, Paul, what happened? How did you do that?"
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's great. That's a boost. What I don't want is going back that way and them saying, "Wow, Paul, what happened?"
Yeah, same thing, just the other way around.
Exactly. So there's that.
Yeah.
I never want that. It's like,
Yeah.
Paul, you were in such great shape. Now you're back there.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is I cannot go back to that point where I was in so much pain. So I've got 2 very, very firm, strong reasons to keep this up.
Yeah.
So my day-to-day now is I always do something.
Okay.
Now I'll train 3 times a week heavy, okay, but very strict. And I can comment about the quality of PTs if you'd like me to at a later point. But I relearned how to train.
Yeah.
So I've been training since 13, 14. Skinny kid trying to put some bulk on, right? My PT said, go on then, show me how you do this. Show me how you do a bench press, dumbbell incline press. She let me do 1, maybe 2 reps to put the weights down.
Yeah, just cut it at that.
She said, forget it.
Yeah,
right? I said, what do you mean? She said, you're doing it wrong. I said, but I lift 32 key dumbbells doing this. She said, oh, yeah, you can lift it like that. Let's start with 12. You what?
Yeah.
12K. I said, right, okay. I'm paying me money. It's your job, whatever. And she taught me the intensity, the tempo, okay, the setup for the exercise, everything. And by the time I finished that set, I was exhausted.
Yeah, with 12 keys,
I was exhausted. So I had to relearn 30 odd years of training. And I'm still relearning it.
Still learning now, and I suppose a big element for you, especially as well with the back, and something we go through quite a bit as well, is like your brace. You would have had to relearn a brace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so many things in executing an exercise that you have to remember. So for me, going back to your question about day to day, I always do something, right? So three or four times a week, I'll lift heavy, compound, push-pull. You know, I'll do a leg day, couple of leg days on their own, dedicated, because there's a lot of, as you know, it takes a lot out of you, doesn't it? But then what I'll do is in between, I've built my gym at home. It's a really good gym. So good that I actually go to hotels now and I'm disappointed with what they're providing. Wish I was at home training in mine. And what I'll do of an evening, so even if I've done a heavy day, I'll do a 20-minute routine, which is something you taught me, which was you can actually you could do 6 rounds of accessory exercises. So that be bicep curls, tricep push down, lateral raises. You know, do 15 reps for the smaller muscle groups. Just repeat the circuit 6 times. It takes me about 25 minutes. Now, I'll do that even if I've done a heavy day, right? Because I always train in the morning. That's my time. I can't train in the afternoon. But just before the evening, that routine that takes just a short amount of time just keeps things ticking over. And then on the days off, where I wouldn't be doing that, the heavy training, I would do that routine. It's kind of an active recovery.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You know?
Would you give that advice, and what advice would you give to somebody that's just starting out looking at training? So if they are in that pain, so if they're in your shoes and it's just, you know, they're just starting out by themselves, do you want to start going to the gym? What's your...
Get a PT.
Okay.
Firstly, get a diagnosis. Right. What is it that's going on with you? Because that information is going to feed into the PT. Because they're going to write the program around that injury. If you don't do that and you go at it on your own and you watch videos on YouTube and Instagram of how to execute a particular exercise, you're going to end up in the vicious circle, right? So firstly, get a proper diagnosis, then go and find a top quality PT. There are plenty of top quality PTs, but the way you can identify them is they need to look at you every second of your lift, correct you, tell you how to set it up, pass the weights to you. Everything needs to be monitored. If you've got a PT who says, give me another 2 reps, and they're on the phone posting something, sack them. Right? Because it's that important that you execute that exercise with perfection, that you need that attention.
And that, especially as you say, if the slightest move wrong,
and everyone thinks, I can lift this. And this ego business, I get asked, Paul, you look in good shape. You know, what are you benching? You must be benching 150 plus. No, I don't even know what I'm benching. I bench what my PT tells me to bench. When I'm tired, I'll stop.
It won't be 150 then.
I couldn't care less. Leave your ego at the door, right? Because your muscles don't know what it says on that dumbbell. Your muscles know how hard they're being worked. And you do that with tempo and intensity, right? And all the clever stuff like your drop sets and all the rest of it. You don't need to be lifting heavy weights.
No.
So top PT, diagnosis, quality PT, and leave your ego, right? And be prepared to relearn. So that's what I would do from a training perspective. But also from a dietary point of view, you know, the saying goes, you can't out-train a bad diet. You do the two together. I know people who've said, tell you what, I'm going to lose a load of weight, then I'm going to train. No, do it at the same time. It's called a transformation, right? Not a lose weight, then lift weights and build up.
Exactly.
If you do it at the same time, the changes were remarkable. I mean, I lost 20 kilo in 14 weeks. It's astounding.
I remember seeing. I've seen you. I've seen you obviously from I've seen you from day one, so I can remember all these times as well.
I bet you don't remember this though.
Cool.
So Sally, after she'd set up all my program, and she said, right, this is what we're going to do. Great, Sal, when do we start? Well, I've got something to tell you. I said, oh, God, you're not leaving, are you? She said, well, not quite, but I am leaving for 2 weeks. I've got a holiday booked in. She said, but I'll leave you with someone who's top class and he will sort you out. That was you.
All right.
That was you. Nice. And within 2 weeks, just before she came back, I said, Adam, do you think she's going to be pleased? I've lost a stone,
Yeah.
And you went, oh, I think she'll be pleased.
I think I remember, I think I remember trying pushing that stone off you,
Yeah, and you were brilliant. And I loved it. But we're talking over 3 years ago now, so you might not have remembered it. You've trained a lot of clients since then, but I always remember that you were the first person to execute her plan.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You didn't say we're going to do it my way.
No, that's it. You take on what's thanks for that, by the way. That was nice to remember. Just as a kind of as we know, we could sit and we could talk about this all day, but what would be, and I'm just actually, before I go into it, my plan is, and what I've said to you is, to actually come back on and delve into more detail about some certain things, because the nutrition's one piece, the training's one piece. You can go into that in more detail for anybody suffering from this stuff, and other things around lifestyle, so we can go into that even further. But I think this episode is quite important to understand like your journey and just everything that you've gone through, really. But what would be any kind of final motivating words that people can take as a bit of inspiration and background to, again, anyone that's in your situation? Like, what would be your final kind of motivating words for them?
Don't feel like you can't get out of it. Don't feel like you're stuck with it. And if you were like me and you sat on the couch now watching this, or lying down and you're in pain, and take a good look at yourself, right? Do you have the belly that I had? It's not helping your back. You need to make change. And if you don't, it ain't going to get any better, right? It's just going to get worse. So don't think you can't get out of this situation. And I don't know whether you, as part of your edit, you're going to put before and after pictures on. I know I need to supply some of that. But when people see that, right, and the story behind it that we've discussed today, the agony, the paramedics, the this, that, and the other, where I really felt lost. I was getting depressed. You know, I was backing out of social situations. My life was going downwards. I am the opposite person today. So I would say, look at me, guys, and don't say that as an egotistical thing, but look at what you can achieve with the right support. So believe that it's possible, but do it in the right way.
Yeah. Okay,
so you might be feeling depressed right now. You might be anxious. You might feel like you're withdrawn. I get that. That's exactly what I felt like that. But there comes a point where you have to decide which road you're going to travel down. Yeah. It's either the one you're already on or the one that's going to change your life. So my advice is, it is possible. Just find the right people and get it done.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you. Thanks for your time.